Beneath the fractured mountains of Lebanon and the forgotten ruins of ancient Syria, there are stories no government dares to archive. Legends not merely of gods and temples, but of doorways, not symbolic gates or poetic metaphors, but real hidden thresholds carved into the bones of the earth itself. In the aftermath of World War II, as borders shifted and power centers emerged from the shadows, a covert branch of American intelligence, operating under the pretense of archaeological collaboration, began dispatching teams into the Levant. Their official goal was simple: catalog ancient relics before they fell into Soviet hands. But internally their mission was anything but mundane. Locals in the Bekaa Valley whispered of the Nafaq al-Ghaib, the tunnel of the unseen. Even seasoned sheikhs refused to speak of it openly. What was most disturbing, however, was not the myth itself, but the pattern it followed. Every 39 years the land around certain Neolithic stones would quake, not with tremors but with sound, inaudible to human ears, but picked up by classified military instruments in 1947, 1986, and again in 2005. Each instance corresponded with inexplicable disappearances, unnatural weather, and the same phrase etched across broken tablets unearthed near Baalbek: "They come when the veil thins." It was in 1952 that the CIA's Special Phenomena Division greenlit Project Hollow Light. Under the guise of assisting French archaeologists in Baalbek in northern Syria, a task force of remote viewers, linguists, physicists, and occult researchers were sent to triangulate the locations of what they described as non-Euclidean anomalies. One such location, buried near a subterranean water table beneath Ras Baalbek, showed electromagnetic spikes unlike anything found elsewhere on Earth, matching no known geological activity. What disturbed the team was not just the data, but what began to happen to the operatives themselves. 2 researchers reportedly vanished within the rooms, despite being under constant surveillance. Surveillance footage distorted, timestamps reversed, and when the team attempted to re-enter the area, the cave had collapsed, sealed from within. One survivor, Agent James Kulmar, was medically discharged and placed under 24-hour psychiatric watch. His final journal entries, smuggled by a colleague, detailed something far stranger than simple madness. He wrote of pale men without breath, voices speaking from rocks, and a realm seen only when one's heartbeat synchronized with the pulse of the mountain. In a declassified fragment from 1971, a document marked with SIGINT/cosmic clearance, the following line was highlighted: "Our equipment registers no known radiation, no biological material, and yet something is there. It's as though the rocks are observing us." This remark, buried in bureaucratic language, points to something unnerving. Intelligence not biological but geological, sentience encoded in the stone. And yet, what could such an intelligence desire? Several embedded operatives began exhibiting extreme psychological changes after returning from the region. Night terrors, automatic writing in ancient Aramaic, and an uncontrollable urge to return to the sites. One agent reportedly attempted to open a gate beneath an abandoned monastery in Wadi Kadisha, claiming he had been chosen by the seraphim of the deep. His words were chilling. "They walk beneath us, and they are waiting for the final tone. When the sound returns, the old bloodlines will answer." As strange as these claims were, they echoed prophecies found in the Kitab al-Zil, the Book of Shadows, a Syrian manuscript confiscated by French intelligence in the 1920s S. The text, written in cryptic Syriac and Phoenician hybrids, spoke of the sons of Ashtur returning through fire and tone, and referenced a celestial event that would peel back the mirror between worlds. Modern scholars dismissed it as medieval mysticism until a particle physicist working under hollow light noted that the geometries in the margins mirrored quantum torus models not discovered until decades later. In the mid-1980s, an American satellite scanning ancient settlements in the Syrian desert captured a 9-second burst of unexplainable data over Palmyra. The thermal imaging showed a sudden cold signature, something that defied the desert's harsh heat. For 9 seconds, the stone colonnades of the ruined city glowed with negative temperature and then vanished. Hours later, Bedouins in the area reported a black wind, animals fleeing, and the scent of sulfur emanating from the earth. No trace of the anomaly was ever found again, except a partially charred CIA report with the words, "Contact confirmed, gate closing." In 2003, during the chaos of regional conflict, a joint task unit led by foreign intelligence stumbled upon a sealed crypt beneath Crac des Chevaliers, the Crusader fortress in western Syria. The inner sanctum bore no Christian symbols. Instead, it held markings resembling ancient Akkadian, but fused with patterns found in pre-Incan Peru. The unbroken line of glyphs spiraled inward toward a central obsidian orb, cold to the touch, humming with barely perceptible vibrations. A single phrase translated from the wall read, "We did not build it. We were told to protect it." The orb was transported under high secrecy, reportedly housed for a brief period in an underground facility beneath Mount Hermon, long believed by Kabbalists and Christian mystics alike to be the site of the Watcher's descent. Days after its arrival, all communication from the site ceased. When military personnel were sent to investigate, they found the facility abandoned, computers melted, walls scorched with symbols that hadn't been there before. One word was carved into the steel of the command room, backward and upside down: Tehom, the deep. To this day, that orb has never resurfaced. Some believe it was destroyed. Others say it was taken further underground, into the catacombs beneath Damascus. But rumors persist of a secret pact signed between multiple global intelligence agencies to seal the Lebanon corridor indefinitely, no further research, no more excavations. The excuse? Instability. The truth? Unknowable. Satellite scans from 2024, leaked on dark web forums, show unusual shifts in magnetic fields along fault lines that pass directly beneath Mount Hermon and Baalbek. The pattern resembles not chaos, but a signal, recurring every 39 years, growing stronger. As the next cycle nears, whispers emerge from remote monasteries, from the last surviving Druze prophets, from blind scribes in Aleppo, each repeating the same phrase in trembling tone. The gate prepares. But what are these shapes? Are they physical entities, forgotten gods, sentient echoes of a pre-human civilization? Or worse, are they demons in the literal sense? Not metaphors, but real, ancient beings, driven not by malice but by function. Function bound to old codes, codes that modern intelligence inadvertently began to decipher through quantum resonance and linguistic reconstruction. The CIA won't confirm any of it. Most involved in Halolite are either dead, missing, or discredited. But those who still speak, whistleblowers silenced by strokes, mysterious car crashes, or sudden disappearances, all utter the same closing remark when asked if they found what they were looking for beneath Lebanon and Syria. No, they didn't find it. They found them. And somewhere beneath those ruined temples, beneath the sun-bleached bones of forgotten empires, a pulse is beginning again. Like a heartbeat, like a key turning, like something waking, not from slumber, but from watching. And as that frequency draws near, what lies beneath may no longer remain there. In the end, it is not we who uncover the truth, it is the truth that uncovers us. But the sound is returning, and with it the watchers. The town of Yabrad, nestled in the anti-Lebanon mountains, is quiet now, but those who know what sleeps beneath it do not sleep themselves. There, in the heart of the hills, a cave system known to locals as Magarat al-Maut, the Cave of Death, has long been avoided, not out of superstition but ancestral warning, according to Syriac monks who once passed through the area. The cave's deepest chamber does not obey natural time. When a Catholic mission entered it in 1883, they documented the strange absence of echoes and the unsettling fact that candles would not burn. They left after 37 minutes. When they returned to the village, 4 days had passed. In 2011, during the height of regional conflict, a private military contractor funded by a now-defunct American biotech firm received clearance to secure non-essential ruins near Yabraud for supposed mineral surveying, but according to internal memos later leaked through obscure esoteric forums, what they unearthed was not a mine, but a chamber containing 7 stone seats in a circle, each inscribed with identical symbols seen only once before. On the inner walls of the crashed Kecksburg Acorn object in Pennsylvania, 1965. The leader of the expedition, Dr. Marcus Drell, sent only one message before disappearing. They left their shapes here to anchor themselves. The seats were not for humans. The chamber was sealed immediately after, under the guise of a tunnel collapse. No official report followed, but months later, a nearby shepherd discovered one of the mercenaries wandering naked in the hills, eyes burned black, muttering in a language no one recognized. Not long after, seismic equipment detected rhythmic vibrations emanating from the area at exact 33-minute intervals. Scientists attempted to write it off as a tectonic anomaly, until the rhythm began syncing with unexplained behavioral shifts in nearby populations. Schoolchildren drawing perfect spirals in dirt. Elders waking at the same moment each night, claiming to hear chanting through the ground. One UN health worker documented a tribal elder's prophecy. They are singing again, the buried ones. When they finish the 7th verse, the mirror will break. Meanwhile, within a NATO black site near Tripoli, a relic recovered from Ras Baalbek was being examined. An obsidian disc, smooth, impossibly cold, etched with non-linear grooves. Researchers noticed that every 13 days the grooves would rearrange themselves when exposed to deep harmonic frequencies. This phenomenon mirrored a discovery from 1979, when Soviet cosmonauts picked up an identical frequency while passing over Syria. The cosmonauts, days later, reported seeing an eye in the desert and suffered psychotic breaks that were never disclosed to the public. There are records from Babylon, inscribed in cuneiform, that speak of black mirrors in the ground that swallow stars. They describe not gods, but intrusions, entities not native to our space, only made visible when the correct tonal keys are struck. These intrusions, the texts claim, did not crawl, nor walk, nor fly, but bent themselves into being. The Babylonians knew their names, or tried to, but the names decayed every time they were spoken. During the Cold War, the CIA conducted an experiment under Operation Star-Cross, combining early brainwave mapping with resonance induction. A subject named Elijah Reese, a gifted cryptanalyst with a history of religious visions, was exposed to a sequence of tones extracted from ruins near Homs. Within 2 sessions, he began sketching a map, unrecognizable at first, until an archaeologist realized it matched the inverse topography of the anti-Lebanon range. Elijah claimed the mountains were a lid, not a wall, and that what was buried was not dead, but coiled. The tones, analyzed decades later, were found to correspond to the first known vibrational modes of exotic matter, something modern science only began theorizing in 2018. Which begs the question, how did those ancient builders know? Unless, perhaps, they didn't build them for themselves. Perhaps they built them as bindings. Fast forward to 2023. An Israeli deep radar scan near the Syrian border revealed a vast subterranean void beneath Mount Bental, too symmetrical to be natural. The chamber extended for miles, its floor composed of perfect hexagonal plates uncannily similar to the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland. Within the central area, a perfectly circular pit descended beyond measurable limits. All remote probes dropped into the pit failed to return signals. Only a final, chilling recording was retrieved. A sound, not a scream, not a voice, but a deep, layered chorus. Not music, not language, something older. A single Syrian monk, the last of a hidden Maronite sect, guarding the region, broke his silence shortly after. The pit is not a wound, it is a throat. When asked what it was waiting to speak, he replied, "It already spoke once, at the beginning. We have been living in its echo ever since. Back in Langley, redacted files begin to circulate internally under a revived project name Hololight Threshold. A joint task force combining CERN researchers, linguists from the Vatican's secret archives, and DARPA frequency engineers has been re-established. Their objective is listed as prevent harmonic reactivation of anchor sites along the Levantine corridor. But if they are preventing something, it means someone or something is trying to reactivate it. And now, ancient patterns begin aligning again. Pilgrims vanish along forgotten desert paths. Static pulses disrupt communications near specific longitudes, and in classified UN briefings, one terrifying realization is emerging. The 7 anchor sites, those stone seats found beneath Yabraud, are not isolated relics. They are terminals in a circuit. When the last one activates, something once sealed beneath the tectonic scars of Lebanon and Syria may no longer remain dormant. Time grows short, the vibrations are rising in amplitude, more are dreaming of spirals, and deep within hidden chambers carved by hands long forgotten, the watchers beneath the world begin to stir. And if they remember enough, they may awaken. When memory returns to the buried, the sky will fracture like clay. The gate hums. The tones resonate. And now something ancient prepares to speak again. In the ruins of Qasr al-Hayr al-Sharqi, an Umayyad fortress swallowed by the sands of the Syrian desert, there lies an architectural anomaly that has never been explained. Beneath the central courtyard, a passageway carved in black basalt stone descends not in steps, but in a spiral so perfectly symmetrical it defies medieval engineering. The walls are marked with petroglyphs not native to the Islamic period, nor any Semitic language. Instead, they mirror patterns seen only once before, beneath Lake Vostok in Antarctica, where another sealed vault had once pulsed with inaudible tones. Those tones are now playing again, and they're growing louder. The spiral passage beneath Qasr al-Hayr leads to what CIA satellite schematics refer to as subsurface vault theta. Discovered during Operation Caldarium in 1993, it was deemed inaccessible after several autonomous drones lost power mid-descent. But in 2022, a Turkish academic specializing in phonetic geometry, Dr. Hasan Farouk, proposed a radical theory. The glyphs on the spiral walls were not decorative, but instructions. He called them resonant wayfinding. When followed with precise vocalizations, they could manipulate the spatial orientation of the corridor. Simply put, sound, not force, was the key to opening the vault. The theory was tested, first with simulated frequencies, then with human voices. On the 12th attempt, the basalt beneath their feet changed, not physically, but perceptually. One of the researchers described it as being folded into a breath, and when they emerged, their wrist chronometers were 4 hours ahead. The descent had taken 3 minutes, yet the footage, recorded by a drone that miraculously resumed function, lasted only 1 second. What they found beyond the spiral changed everything. A vast chamber filled with hundreds of obelisks, each no taller than a man, each etched with a symbol matching the resonance keys previously recorded in Mount Hermon, Baalbek, and Palmyra. At the center of the chamber stood a stone column wrapped in oxidized copper bands that pulsed with internal light. Farouk referred to it as the Choral engine. He believed it was a tuning device, not for sound alone, but for perception itself. The Choral engine activated when approached by a living human. Its copper rings began to spin slowly, humming in layered frequencies. As they accelerated, so did the room's effect on the mind. All present began hearing the same voice, not externally, but within their thoughts. The message was not in words, but intent. One researcher described it as being seen by something that remembered my name before I was born. Several members of the team collapsed. Nosebleeds, seizures, spontaneous muteness. Only 3 emerged. One was institutionalized within 48 hours. The second vanished during a layover in Istanbul. The third, Dr. Farouk, now resides in an undisclosed location under Vatican protective custody. his final recorded words before silence. They are not demons, they are returning instructions. Meanwhile, seismic instruments across the Levant began recording harmonic pulses at 1.43 Hz, perfectly matching the frequency captured beneath the Ross ice shelf in 2007. A pattern began to emerge, sites thousands of miles apart vibrating in unison. A global harmonic network buried beneath sacred sites, ancient temples, and collapsed cities. These were not random places. They were receivers. They were never temples to gods. They were transceivers for something older. This theory found chilling support in an untranslated portion of the Book of Enoch, found sealed inside a box of Dead Sea Scroll fragments stored in the Rockefeller Museum. The fragment, written in Paleo-Aramaic, spoke of those who showed man how to shape vibration into vision. It warned of the watchers beneath, whose pact with earth is bound not by will but by sequence. The scroll ends abruptly, burned at the edge, as if someone tried to destroy it before it could be finished. In 2024, DARPA's Q Resonance Division deployed a mobile deep-frequency drone named Argus to the Tel Hamukar ruins near the Iraq-Syria border. What Argus detected was impossible. The ruins, dated to 3500 BCE, emitted a modulated signal matching those found in black holes. More baffling, a faint, repeating signature embedded in the signal translated, after weeks of decoding, into a phrase. Sequence 6 complete, awaiting final voice. The drone shut down shortly after. Its onboard systems melted from the inside. The phrase final voice has haunted intelligence circles ever since. Who or what is the voice? Is it human? Or is it an external trigger, something from beyond, ready to speak through the chosen? Whispers have begun circulating in esoteric circles that the voice may not be a person, but a sound event, a frequency that, when uttered, realigns space in the places where these transceivers were built. A tone, to unlock what was never meant to be open. And there is another problem. The tone may have already been activated. In November of 2024, an unauthorized AI language model, in training on phonetic and scriptural patterns, generated a vocal sequence after being exposed to ancient Ugaritic glyphs and modern quantum mathematics. The tone played once, in an MIT lab. Within 14 seconds, every hard drive in the room wiped. The lead researcher, a Dr. Elizabeth Merrick, whispered one word before falling unconscious. Echoed. Every attempt to replicate the event has failed, but new anomalies have begun manifesting. Deep in the Zabadani Valley, where the mountains converge like serrated teeth, villagers report mirror storms, sudden stillness followed by bursts of wind that leave no trail but trigger identical dreams among those nearby. In these dreams, a door opens inward, not a metaphorical door, but a physical stone gate, always sealed, always watched by beings with no mouths, but with eyes that shimmer like obsidian. The watchers, it seems, never left. They were not destroyed. They were stored, their presence embedded into geometry, vibration, language, and now, as we rediscover the tones, they wake not as intruders, but as summoned functions of a forgotten code. What we call demons may not be evil, they may be executors, bound to respond when the harmonic keys align, and those keys are aligning. And in the next sequence, when the tone reaches its seventh layer, the choral gates, long dormant, may finally open. From Lebanon's basalt veins to Syria's buried mirrors, from mountain crypts to the cold pulse of buried machines, the earth is preparing to speak. What begins beneath ends above. But what will it say? And who will answer? And the mountain winds around Kalamun have changed. There is no weather forecast for what now flows across that range, air that no longer moves with pressure or heat but with intent. NATO reconnaissance drones have failed repeatedly in their overflights, not from mechanical failure but from disorientation. Pilots describe it as if the topography shifts mid-flight, as if the mountain range itself is reconfiguring, a slow, breathing labyrinth of stone and silence. It is here, in the shadow of Mount Kasiyun, that an ancient convergence occurs. Scrolls hidden by the Yazidi priesthood spoke of this site. The 13th Mouth. A gate, sealed beneath the mountain, locked not with metal or stone, but with tones. The texts warned of a celestial threshold that, once opened, would reverse the direction of death. Not resurrection, not life, but return. In 2025, a multinational excavation, framed as seismic reinforcement, penetrated deep into Qasr's hollow interior. The further they went, the more their instruments failed. GPS signals looped, recording their location as being in two places simultaneously, both within the mountain and hundreds of kilometers beneath the Golan Heights. The distortion was not just physical, it was dimensional, a fracture in the grid of space-time rooted in ancient architecture. At the heart of the excavation was a hall of stone, black basalt, polished smooth and etched in spirals so deep they could not have been carved by tools known to ancient civilizations. The pattern mirrored those found on monolithic stelae in Göbekli Tepe and at underwater ruins off the coast of India, suggesting a singular global architect behind the most ancient sites. But deeper still was a vault. Inside there was no relic, no deity, no bones. Only a low, inaudible vibration and a sphere of clear crystal suspended in magnetic stasis. This sphere was not a containment. It was a receiver. When exposed to human presence, it began to glow. Patterns moved inside it like smoke, forming the same ancient glyphs seen across the ruins of Baalbek, Palmyra, and Tel Hammukar. It was speaking, and it was remembering. Then it stopped. Suddenly, seismic readings across the entire region spiked. Each of the 7 anchor points activated. Frequencies converged, not chaotically, but in harmony. A pulse of sound rippled across the Levant. To most, it was silence. But those attuned, shamans, mystics, survivors of hololight, heard it like a drumbeat in their blood. From the Sea of Galilee to the ruins of Aleppo, animals howled. The sky dimmed. And deep within Mount Hermon something opened, not violently, but with solemn precision. A door. And standing behind it, not creatures, not aliens, but forms. Shapes neither fully material nor spectral. Geometry with intelligence, sentience arranged in fractal consciousness. One voice emerged, not from a mouth, but from within the heads of all who had ever heard the tones. "We remember you." It was not speech. It was recognition. The realization struck like thunder. These entities were not visitors. They were remnants. Pieces of a pre-human architecture embedded into the earth, scattered as code across civilizations. Not physical overlords, but the seated logic of a forgotten intelligence, waiting for reactivation. And yet there was still something darker at work. Something deeper. The Watchers were not the end, they were the firewall. Behind them was what they had sealed away, a consciousness not made of thoughts, but of memory itself. The source code of entropy, the entity that speaks when all 7 tones align and silence collapses inward. The texts called it Tehom, the deep. Satellite feeds went dark across the Levant. Electrical storms struck in perfect circles. From beneath the Sea of Galilee, an ancient obelisk emerged, humming. On its face, the words inscribed in 3 dead tongues. The sequence is nearly complete. The final voice approaches. And somewhere, whether in a mountain crypt or a government lab or a monastery cellar, a human being, born with the right resonance, is beginning to remember. He does not know yet why he's being pulled to Syria. He only hears music in his sleep, spirals of sound, always ending on a silence that feels like a held breath. And when it does, the veil will not tear, it will reconfigure. We are not awaiting invasion. We are awakening a system. And beneath the stone, beneath the tones, beneath all that was buried by myth and empire, something is watching back. And now, at the edge of the tone, as the gates align and the shapes begin to fold outward once again, the final frequency begins to play.